Good evening, and we want to welcome you to this special edition of the JOCO and update on the Uhuru 3 and their case, and a chance to dive into Black August as we come to the conclusion of Black August. As we always do as the JOCO Collective, we want to acknowledge that we do this work on the unceded lands of the Tongva people, the indigenous people of the LA Basin. Tonight, we have returning Moise Odom. We welcome her back, the chair of the Hands Off Uhuru Defense Committee and chair of the Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, and Dr. Matsemela Odom. Dr. Matsemela Odom is the international president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement in PDM, and a member of the Black is Back Coalition Steering Committee. He's a Black Studies educator at San Diego State University and other schools, including San Diego City College, San Diego Mesa College. Odom has published numerous articles on the history of Black people throughout Southern California, analyzing the civil rights and Black power movements, police brutality, segregation, the crack cocaine epidemic, hip hop music, and most appropriately for tonight, the history of Black resistance. But before we get to Dr. Odom, we want to start with a quick update from Hands Off Uhuru and Sister Moise in this present moment of Black resistance and present moment of the state on attack to criminalize our righteous movement. Sister Moise.
Uhuru. Uhuru means freedom. And my name is Moise Odom, as has been stated, and I want to appreciate you, Brother Youssef, and the Joko Collective, Sister Tasha and Sister Mila. And it's great to be on here with comrade and brother Matsemela Odom. And yes, so I am the chairperson of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign. And what this campaign is, for those who don't know, is was first started or stated as a defense campaign, but a counteroffensive, meaning that we are a group of individuals that are led, by the righteous understanding that African people have a right to be free. And we are here to defend the rights and liberties of the African People's Socialist Party, which was violently attacked, 7 homes and properties in July 29th of 2022. So last year, we just, acknowledged the 1-year anniversary of this attack. And to understand that the main target of this attack by the FBI and the US government was on Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who was the chairperson of the African People's Socialist Party, which is an organization that has been around for over 50 years. And the chairman's work even precedes that of building a world that is free of suffering for African people. And when we say African, we mean Black people, wherever we are, wherever we have been dispersed, and not just in freeing us, but giving us the opportunity to be a once again self-determined people, where we control every aspect of our lives and have the ability to see a future that is not mirrored in suffering and oppression and torture as we see daily throughout our lives. And so this counteroffensive means that we are going on the offensive, saying that we understand that this attack on the people is bogus. Not only is it bogus, it's a reflection of a system that has a long history, so much that we wouldn't even have enough time to even begin to just touch on the history of violence, incessant violence that has been waged on African people, and thus, as Brother Youssef opened, acknowledge whose land we are on. And so everyone in the world is touched by this system that oppresses us, and we understand this is a system of colonialism. And so this counteroffensive, this campaign is here to defend the work of the African People's Socialist Party, who is fighting to overturn colonialism, which is a system that has created this world where we have, a split of oppressor nations and oppressed nations. And so we're fighting for the people. And this campaign is here to defend not just Chairman Omali Yeshitela, but 2 other members of the Uhuru movement, Penny Hess, who is the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee. This is a white woman who has worked under the chairman's leadership, and Jesse Neville, who is a 33-year-old white male who has also built, work. And both of these comrades work in the white community to win back reparations, really, which means to return what was stolen. And so you can go to the website. I'm just going to give a brief update because I know we are short on time, but I want everybody to go to handsoffuhuru.org, handsoffuhuru.org. This is where you will find more information about this campaign. We're calling on people to get involved, to sign the petition, to volunteer in the many ways of this campaign. We are building for a really big mass mobilization in Washington, D.C. in November. And I'll be back on later on to talk more about that at another time, but really want the people to know that this is a campaign that is one right now in this period, understanding that this attack on Omali Yeshitela was an attack on freedom of speech. Everything that he has said is true. It has not changed over the years. And in fact, all he has done was just unveiled and to continue to expose what this system, the US government, what it does to African and all oppressed peoples here within the so-called borders of the United States, from Alaska to Chile to the continent itself, all over the world. And so we are calling on people that if you experience any type of suffering, we have to understand that there is this is a time for us to unite and to come together and to I'm reminded of this quote that it's a Kenyan proverb that says, like, when the elephants fight, the grass suffers, and this is a time for us to, no longer fight amongst ourselves and to bring all of our struggles under one movement. And we say Uhuru because we understand that we must have freedom on our minds 24/7, whatever that looks like for you, whatever you're dealing with in your own personal lives. Understand that it is connected to something greater and that you can be a part of helping to undo that greater system that is causing oppression for you and your future. And we want you to be a part of the Hands Off Uhuru. So go to handsoffuhuru.org. And you will find out more information. And you can also email us at info@handsoffuhuru.org. And again, my name is Mwezi Odom, and I look forward to being back to giving some really important updates about where the campaign is. And we have some exciting meetings coming up, so you can also check out our upcoming events as well. So I will leave it there for now, comrades. Thank you so much. Oh, and you're muted. Brother Youssef.
Yeah, I am muted. Right. I always forget I mute myself. But I was just saying thank you. Right.
Yes.
Thank you. And yeah, we'll bring you back in before the evening's over for announcements. Right.
Great. Right on.
Okay. Awesome. So now we're going to move to our primary guest, I guess you might say, or the guest who's going to get the bulk of the time tonight, Dr. Matsemela Odom. Brother Matsemela, how are you doing?
Oh, I think he's coming on. He's having some technical difficulties, but he'll be right on.
Yeah, because that's what digital life is, right? Those are the kinds of difficulties we have now sometimes.
Uhuru!
Happens all the time. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Welcome. We're happy to have you here. The theme of the night, right, is as here we are, August 31st, closing Black August. And a Black August that, interestingly enough, I think, right, opened with this kind of this spontaneous, in the moment situation of Black resistance and Black self-defense on the river front in Montgomery, right? And I thought that was an appropriate opening, right, for Black August,
right?
So we wanted to bring you on, right, to talk to us about Black August, right? The previous slide before the share ended, we have the Soledad brothers up there, right, and completely tied into the history of Black August, and particularly here in California where we are. So I'm talking too much already, right? So I want to turn it over to you. What has the party, the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru movement, what has their relationship been to Black August? How have they celebrated Black August? How does the party, how does the movement embody spirit of Black August, which of course is 1 month set aside, right, for study, reflection, fasting, etc. But we know liberation is a year-round process. So I'm gonna turn it over.
Right, Uhuru. I really appreciate that because when we think about Black August, it's important to understand that Black August is an observance that began inside the colonial prison system, California prison system, if I'm correct, San Quentin, 1978 in San Quentin. But it's an important moment. Directly it observes the deaths, the martyrdom of Jonathan Jackson, George Jackson, but as well as Katari Golden, I think, who had just recently passed at the moment that the initial Black August commemoration had begun. So Black August but Black August in itself is crucial because of the fact that Black August identifies a history of resistance, right? A history of remembrance of our martyrs. I think when most people are familiar with observances of Black history, they're thinking about Black History Month. And this is not to besmirch Black History Month at all. Black History Month itself did emerge out of a certain arena struggle. And if you don't want to know more about that, I would suggest you cop this book. It's called Fugitive Pedagogy, Carter G. Woodson and the Art of Black Teaching by a guy named Jarvis Gibbons. So, many people forget that Black History Month was a moment of reflection as well. It was supposed to be like a year worth of activity and a moment of reflection. But nevertheless, this is different because, like I said, it began as specifically in connection to African anti-colonial resistance coming out of the period that the party understands as the African Revolution of the 60s. The APSP, the African People's Socialist Party, was formed in 1972 from the merger of three different organizations, one called the Junta of Militant Organizations that was led by a guy at that time then known as Joe Waller, then later on named Omali Yeshitela, who himself had been had been a political prisoner because of his emergence onto the political scene in 1966 as a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. The Uhuru movement from its inception has always placed the defense of the incarcerated. So there was a movement to free Connie Tucker, a movement to free Joe Waller. There was something called the Long March to Stark Prison, the movement to free Pitts and Lee. But all this stuff culminates in 1978 at the exact same time that we're talking about Black August, with the creation of something called the African National Prison Organization. That's important because that's the first mass organization, as well as, 1978, you have two events. On July 4th, 1978, you have the mass mobilization to free Desi Woods. You also have the creation of the African National Prison Organization. Both of these things are important because it's the movement to free Desi Woods that the party headed. She was an African woman who in like 1976, if I'm correct, had killed her attempted rapist in Georgia. She was but she was also an anti-prison organizer. That's important to know. She was down there because she was organized against prison. On the way back, a white man tried to rape her. She killed the man with his own gun. She became a political prisoner. So this campaign was important because this campaign and these mass mobilizations that were held for the very first time brought back that mass character to the African Revolution, to the Black Power movement after its defeat in the 1960s. See, the prison question is important because by that time, so many people were willing to see the struggle as simply a struggle around electoral politics. There's important formations, but formations that still represent those limitations, such as the 1972 Gary Convention. I think it was officially called the National Black Political Assembly. These things and coalition at that time was understood as a way to find coalition with radicals and people who weren't radical. But the Desi Woods movement, the struggle to free our political prisoners, was so important because we understood it's that struggle, the unity of radicals, progressives, to free our political prisoners was crucial towards us completing the movement. So just a couple other things. ANPO, African National Prison Organization, was created. And the APSP actually formed the very first committee to free Geronimo Pratt. I want to say it was in San Francisco. And then that work extended into the 80s. I'm pretty sure you could tell us about that. And so the organization that I lead, the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, stands on that long history of organization. I would like to also suggest that it's Huey P. Newton, who was, I think Huey, in 1989, he was killed in August. So his martyrdom was in August in Oakland. But Huey came back into political life working with the Uhuru movement to free a guy by the name of Freddie Lee Roberts. I don't know if you remember the Freddie Lee Roberts case when you were up there. He had killed a police officer, and he was accused of killing a police officer in self-defense.
Right. Yeah.
You know, our position was that and it seems clear that the other cop had actually done it. But nevertheless, that is like I said, it's very brief, but that's why Black August is important, and the Uhuru movement been on the ground from the jump, commemorating Black August. Other ways through which we commemorate right now, we have a fund drive. It's called the Mafundi Lake Sponsored Prisoner Program, and in August we solicit funds because the Burn and Spear newspaper is absolutely free for incarcerated people. So if y'all know any incarcerated people, and I'll grab a spear right now. This is the Burn and Spear newspaper. If you know any incarcerated, it's the oldest Black Power newspaper in continuous print. If you know any people that are incarcerated, all you have to do is go to the burnandspear.org, submit their information, and they get a free copy of the Burn and Spear shipped to them every month.
That's awesome. That bears repeating. Would you say that again?
So go to theburningspear.org and look for the tab that talks about the Sponsor a Prisoner program, and we might even be able to put it into the links. And incarcerated people receive a free monthly copy of the Burning Spear newspaper. The Burning Spear newspaper is the oldest Black Power newspaper in continuous print since 1968. That is, and it's the same paper.
Right on. I got so I got so caught up on that, you know, and getting the paper to the incarcerated that I forgot my follow-up question. Right? I mean, that's outreach, right? You know, okay, right. But I do, because it was about the prisons, right? As you were talking, you know, I was you got me thinking about, you know, there has been a public discourse last 10 years or more, whenever whenever the new Jim Crow came out, right?
Right.
Public discourse about mass incarceration. Of course, right. That got even more play during the summer of 2020. But that is rarely connected to also the presence of political prisoners.
Right.
So, you know, can you talk about that dynamic, right? Both the mass incarceration.
That's actually interesting. Talk about the fact that the new Jim Crow book is really connected to the question of political prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's important, because the struggle, what we have now is we have a social system in crisis.
Mm-hmm.
In many different ways, the social system is in crisis. And when the social system is in crisis, the colonial powers can't rule the same way that they used to rule.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a popular discussion around mass imprisonment of African people and mass incarceration of African people, because we forced it on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And the colonial powers can't rule in the same old way. So they're trying to find new ways to have this conversation. But they're trying to just reform the imprisonment and incarceration of people into new things that work for them, to help them balance their budgets and stuff like that. However, what I would say is this. I'll say that we understand the reason why we have to put forward political prisoners is because these are people who have been either imprisoned because of their political activity, or their continued imprisonment come as a result of their politicization while they were in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And the imprisonment of all African people is a political question. It's not a question about And this is the problem, because here in San Diego, there was some African woman who ran for DA a couple years ago, and she's a very well liked, nice person. But her platform was she would make sure the right people go to prison. But we're always the right people to go to prison.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what the law is. If you want to say now it's sex trafficking, I mean, they're not getting Russian sex traffickers with people inside storage bins. They're getting African people who don't have jobs, who are trapping out of $40 a night motels. You know what I mean? These are the people that are going to jail, and it's egregious. I think we can all agree that selling people isn't good. So that's the new way to get people in jail. I mean, it's literally what happened. Literally about 10 years ago, at the moment that everyone was saying these drug laws are wrong, that's when there's other ways to get egregious people in prison. So we always end up as the right people to be in prison. You know, that's not the question. The question is political, and that is it's a question. It's a question of politics. It's a question of power. It's a question of our community to have our own defense, for us to do what we want and as we need with the wrong committed in our community. So the question of Black community control. So what I would like to say, however, is that the new Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander went to, if I'm correct, Stanford when she was an undergrad or something like that. And she was asked where she got the term the new Jim Crow from. And another program that the Uhuru movement led on was the 1977, if I'm correct, or 1970, it's 1977, if I'm correct, the referendum went through to make the death penalty legal again in California. The Uhuru movement led on the question of pushing back, stopping the death penalty. Big posters, the death penalty is genocide. And the African People's Socialist Party, through our solidarity organization, began a series of walks that you might remember when you were in the Bay, called the Walk Against Genocide, and eventually the March Against Genocide. That Walk Against Genocide, March Against Genocide, shameless plug, is the origins of something we're organizing for this October, the Days of Reparations to African People.
Okay.
So that's the origins of the Walk Against Genocide, the March Against Genocide, because it was mobilizing against the reinstatement of the death penalty. So there's mass, and our posters, you can go and find them out. Just Google March Against Genocide. You notice they were yellow posters. One thing Michelle Alexander says is that, I don't know where I got the quote. I don't know where I got the title from. But in the Bay Area, there were these yellow posters, and it said the new Jim Crow, because we said that. We said the slogan coming out of the Burning Spear newspaper, I can find you those, in the poster says prison is the new Jim Crow. Right. But
I remember the posters.
Oh, see, there was
So, and I remember that part of the book where she talks about, and I said, I remember seeing those posters. So anyway,
exactly.
Or the presence of the party, right? It
was the Uhuru movement that, I just want to say, it was the Uhuru movement that gave it to her. The idea, the difference, however, is this isn't something that can be overturned with just Africans voting, right? It can be overturned with power. The question is of power. So it's not just about Africans voting. It's an important book. It raised an important conversation. A lot of the information inside of it is useful. But if we think that is simply something that's meant to reform the slave ship that we're living on, then it won't get us to where we need to go.
Yes. Thank you. Another quick question. The October mobilization you just mentioned, what's it called again?
Days of Reparation to African People, and this is going to be part of a larger book tour by Chairman Tatella.
Okay, great.
which is attached to his new book, The Verdict is in Reparations Now, which is a reaccounting of the 1982 World Tribunal on reparations to African people. And I would just say that, tying it into what Comrade Nwezi talked about earlier today, is that it's this leadership, it's this history, it's the fact that they know that Michelle Alexander's and others have learned from our position. I mean, this is important for, I don't just want to say too much, but in 1995, when the prison population reached 1 million, it literally was only gangster rap and people they would define as leftists. That was everyone else was talking about the fact that the Democrats don't support us because they don't lock up the people in our community. You got to remember that. Right. That was their claim. Right. They don't support us because they don't lock up the people in our communities. Then later on, when but it was only the people that they just gangster rap. Say specifically, there was a guy named Jail Family out of San Diego had an album. It's called "Take a Ride with Me," and his whole album was about. He basically said, we all penitentiary and out. And so gangster rap, but remember that's when they were getting attacked with the congressional hearings. Yep. And secondly, people that they would identify as left, whether we would call them leftists or not, or the radical segments of the population were the only people sounding the alarm.
Yeah, I do recall that. Well, thank you, Brother Matsemela. That was right on time.
Thank you.
And we'll have you back again for some JoCo function. That's for sure.
Oh no, I love JoCo. I mean, shoot me the application. There's an application process, right?
Yeah, it's called Come on, let's sit down.
Well, if there's no dues I gotta pay to be part of JoCo, then I am a part of JoCo. You gotta understand that. It's not I'm a supporter of JoCo. Yes. I'm a part of JoCo.
Right on. That's the spirit.
Well, we actually do have a dues structure type thing, but we got time to talk about.
We got time to talk about it.
That ain't nothing. So we want to bring Nwezi back in. Because I know there's, again, you have some announcements.
Yes, thank you, Brother Youssef. And just want to really salute that presentation. And yes, I do hope we can continue to build, because Black August is every month. We have to continue to see that as something that is a continuation of centuries of struggle for our people. So, and victories. And so on September 11th, which is a Monday evening, we will be having a mass meeting. These are meetings where we are able to give the people more information about how to support the campaign. But on this particular one, we are inviting the people to come and take part in building the Black People's March on the White House. This is the 15th annual Black People's March on the White House. And from the built through the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations, like I stated, of whom Comrade Matsemela and as well as JoCo Collective are members of. And this is a coalition that was formed in 2000. Well, that started these marches following the election or the selection of Barack Obama. And we say this because we understand that was not a victory. We are not free. And so this mobilization is going to be really important because people all across political spectrums are going to be there at this mobilization. And we want you there. We want you to bring your skills. If you can't be there, you have skills in social media. You want to help put up flyers, posters. We want the people to be involved. So this is the most important meeting that we have coming up to really put that out there. So this is September 11th. You can go to handsoffforhuru.org/events. And again, go there to learn everything about the campaign. And if you are an organization or an individual and you want to be a part of this anti-colonial free speech movement, to be able to put your demands on the table to have to be dealt with, you can go to handsoffforhuru.org/coalition and to join as well. So those are just some brief announcements, and we'll have more. But thank you so much, JoCo Collective, Uhuru.
You are very, very welcome. Thank you. This was a great update, a great conversation, presentation about Black August, the party, the Uhuru movement, Black people's current condition. So I want to say thank you, and kind of go back to where I started. That little event on the riverfront in Alabama, right, in Montgomery, and the reaction, so right, the response of Black people throughout the country, and I would think the world. What a morale lift it was, right? And particularly, right, to see those Black people come to the defense of another African who they probably didn't know, but just saw, right, was under attack. You know, and that made people feel that was, like you say, little small victories, right? We're gonna claim that victory.
Yes.
And just, you know, what that did, I think, psychologically for folks, right? So let's do the same thing for the Uhuru 3, right? Let's, you know, let's Black folks rally, right? Let us rally and defend ours, defend our defenders, right? And
touch
all
one,
take part
touch
in this
all.
liberation. That's right.
Uhuru, that's it. That's it. You know, well, I wish I had a folding chair right now.
That's right. Yeah, the latest weapon of choice. Right? So we're going to say thank you again. If you're watching on YouTube, we hope you liked it. Go ahead and like it. Subscribe to the channel, share, and look for some of these links that we were talking about. All right.